Joining us now, Sean Spicer, author of the best-selling New York Times best-selling book, The Briefing. You can get The Briefing in a number of places. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on B. Dalton. Or here's the best thing to do, the easiest thing to do, just website, johnfredericksradio.com. And there's a little ad there right in the middle. It says The Briefing, book by Sean Spicer. Here's what you do. You click on it, and everything is right there. I make it so easy for you to buy Sean's book. It's incredible. And you got to buy it because it's a cool read. So pick it up today, and he's with us now. Sean, also a senior policy advisor with America First Policies Incorporated. And, of course, you know that we love America First Policies because it is the #1 political action committee in America that is dedicated, I mean dedicated, to pursuing and advocating President Trump's America First agenda. Sean Spicer with us now. Sean, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Great to have you, man.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. It's great to see you back in the United States of America. As your listeners may know, we bumped into each other halfway around the world, so it is great to be back. I happily am in Virginia while you're up there in D.C.
I know, right? You get to stay in Virginia. I know. There's a certain feeling, though, when you...
In fairness, John, I'm headed up to the Capitol Hill to see a couple of our new Virginia members of Congress get sworn in. So I will be up there joining you this afternoon, but I'm going to ask for a temporary reprieve as I cross the bridge.
Well, I'm going to see you there today. It's going to be a lot of fun. Denver Riggleman getting sworn in today. He's got a party, I think, or a little get-together at the Library of Congress. And then both of our good friends, Ben Klein from the 6th District getting sworn in. Ben his little get-together is in the Longworth building, I think, somewhere in the foyer. I don't have that handy. I'll get back to people. But these are open to the public, so if you want to come up and say hi to our new 2 conservative Republican legislators getting sworn in today, you can do that. That's certainly why I am here as well. But before you do that, buy Sean's book, The Briefing, because it is, I tell you what, it is a must-read. And then every time you see a press conference again, the presser in the Oval Office, it'll never be the same after you read this book because it gives you context that you just can't really get on TV. Sean, you were there a long time trying to figure this out. And Coulter blasting the president again yesterday, says he's going to cave, etc. When he talked about not going with a budget with no money for the wall, as I said in my column last week, talk radio went absolutely crazy. If you were advising the president now, Sean, what does he do?
Yeah, well, number one, I don't think he needs my advice. But look, here's the thing, and this is why I object to what Ann said, is it any kid who's gone through 5th grade civics understands that it's not a dictatorship that we live in. We all are very clear, all of us. You, John, you were at the forefront of this. You understand what the president has said he wants to do, what he's been willing to fight for, and knowing, and the wall has been central to his campaign, to his promise to the American people. But it is not a dictatorship. He can't just do it. He's been asking for this money. He's been trying to secure this money. We are now shutting down part of the government because he's committed to border security. So Ann needs to know that until we can get a supermajority in the House and the Senate, we lost the House, but I mean, even in the Senate, the reality is until you have 60 votes, you don't control the agenda. And you cannot, the Democrats can stop the small minority, as long as you don't have 60, can stop it. And so the reality is that the president has been trying to fight uphill, knowing that you can only get as much as that group is willing to negotiate out, and so that's it. But I don't know what more he could be doing personally to show his commitment to this, because this is not a good place. There's a lot of people's lives at stake, and livelihoods rather, and a lot of people who are traveling around the country, maybe attending an event or trying to go to a national park or what have you. So this is not an easy thing for a president to do. And I think to minimize it is unfortunate. So I think that he's doing what he has to do in the sense of the going to the Democrats and saying, hey, this is what has to happen. I think all Republicans need to help message and for lack of a better word, illuminate this issue, meaning that this is not just about a physical barrier. This is not about a wall. This is about border security. This is about human trafficking. This is about stopping the flow of illegal drugs over our border. And we need to start making sure that everybody understands exactly what's at stake here, because I don't think that you can count on the mainstream media or Democrats. These are the same Democrats, by the way, and you know this, who all voted just a few years ago for an even more robust package than is being put forward right now.
They voted for it in the past, but they're not voting for it now, and they're being obstinate because it's Trump's agenda, right? So if it was 100%. Anybody else's, it's about
you just
Trump.
Put your finger on. If this was anybody, I mean, shoot, when Barack Obama was president, they voted for a more robust package than what's currently at stake. These are all people who haven't just said it, who've actually voted for billions of dollars of fencing, et cetera, and are now suddenly talking about how, this is all problematic. And the reality is this is a political fight. They don't want to give Trump what he wants because he's Donald Trump. That's it, plain and simple.
So you're the president. You're trying to compromise. You're asking the leaders to come in today, right, for another meeting. You're going to have them in again on Friday. You understand they have to go through their leadership votes, and Pelosi's got to do a certain thing. I mean, the president understands the politics, as you know, Sean, better than anybody, even though he's a businessman. So, but he's asking them to come in again, and the White House has signaled on several occasions, look, we're willing to look at alternatives. The Democrats, led by Steny Hoyer the other day, yesterday, says, well, we're not going to give him a dime for the wall, not a dime. Well, who's not compromising? The president is saying, I'm willing to compromise.
You know what? I am so glad you brought that up, because it's amazing to me when I watch television these days what the word compromise has come to mean. If you listen to the mainstream media right now, they talk about how, the president's come off his top number, but Democrats are willing to do this. Compromise is both sides at least willing to give a little. And right now you've got Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, as early as this morning, saying, I'm not giving a penny for the wall. And the president saying, okay, I'll come off my top line number by as much as 50% from what I'm told. That already, he's out there saying, I'll go 50%, and they're going, we'll go 0. So the narrative right now is that, and this is where as I said before, I think Republicans need to understand that from a messaging standpoint, we all need to get on the same page on this thing, because the Democrats and the media are 100% against this. And as much as this is about border security, they are trying to make this about Donald Trump more than anything else, and him getting a win. So if Trump took his name off this and said, this is the McConnell deal, suddenly I think it would pass.
If it was anybody else's name was on it, it would pass because they voted for it in the past. And as far as I'm saying, like yesterday, now they're saying the wall is immoral. Well, then why do you have walls around your houses? Why does the Vatican have a wall on it, like the president pointed out? Why is there a wall in Israel? I mean, half of these congressmen have walled and gated homes and communities. Why have that? That's immoral.
But John, here's the thing. Tell Nancy Pelosi just to go a little bit south in her state of California and take down the wall in San Diego.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a ridiculous thing about walls being immoral. I mean, that is the dumbest. You just pointed out a bunch of very, very common sense ways in which they protect not just world things, but all, a lot of these members of Congress have a structure around their house or a place they visit or whatever. I mean, this is a dumb thing. I mean, the idea that somehow walls are immoral, is that really, I mean, the idea that that's even, someone's not laughing when someone says that is pathetic. But the idea is if Nancy Pelosi believes that, then let's go take down the ones in her state.
No question about it.
I mean, I think that this is, we have allowed Democrats to really get out and control the narrative on this in such a silly and ridiculous way. And they keep talking. I mean, look, I get that you need to have a comprehensive approach to immigration and border protection. You need to have, different. It's not just about putting up one wall and calling it a day. But the idea that somehow they're saying, well, we should just use more drones. I mean, once somebody's in the country and you're trying to trace and track them on a drone, that's the problem. And I think that that's the fundamental difference in this, is that what the president's number one priority is making sure that we have an orderly, legal way of people entering the country, not trying to catch them once they break our laws.
Well, Sean, also, if you look at the let's call it a wall or let's call it a barrier in Tijuana, like you mentioned, San Diego. They were throwing stones and rocks the other day. The Border Security Patrol had to act on it, shoot tear gas in. No one hurt. It's all fine. But if you take that barrier away, they all just walk in. There is no way to control it. None. So even looking at that barrier or that wall or that fence or whatever you want to term it, that was highly successful right there in Tijuana, as you mentioned, going into San Diego. So to me, it's not even a rational argument now to say that walls are ineffective when they're utilizing it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I almost feel like actually giving credence and substantiating this silly notion is part of the problem, because these guys say some of the dumbest things, and then we run around and try to analyze them. The idea that people aren't laughing in their faces when they talk about, you know, walls being immoral is somewhat insane in the first place, because I think anybody with a brain understands that there's a point and a reason for a wall, that they've largely been successful in places where they're implemented. And I think the bottom line is, if the president tweeted out one of the new barrier designs that he had the other day, these things, the way they're designed now, I think definitely deter people from climbing over them as they had in the past in a lot of places. But again, I think that we're minimizing this. This isn't about one piece of thing. It's not wall and done. It's wall and, you know, other ways of securing the border. But we've lost control of the narrative on this thing, and we've allowed Nancy Pelosi to try to make a mockery of it. And we're talking about our nation's security. We're talking about, you know, women and children across our border. We're talking about the flow of illegal drugs over our border, and that should be something that should unite everybody. I mean, this idea that we're not having a serious conversation about all three of those things that people claim to be concerned about is where this battle should be really fought.
Sean, I don't know how this is going to end, but I don't think the president can just throw his hands up and say, okay, I'm going to take nothing. He's got to take something, because otherwise, once again, the base is going to go ballistic like they did a week ago. So that's one big issue. How does this end?
You know what? Here's the thing. I don't know. Like you, I've been watching and through this thing countless times since 1994. I think there are a couple things. One is the president clearly has a very strong resolve on this. In the past, I think you've had Republicans that were willing to, quote, cave. I don't think he's going to cave. I think the question is, look, and I think for every listener, they have to understand that he's going to have to get the best deal he can. And he's not getting $5 billion because Nancy Pelosi, as of whatever it is, 12 o'clock today, controls the House of Representatives.
Right.
She has said zero is her number. Schumer has sway in the Senate. We need to take the best case that we can and then continue to make the fight. But when everybody, John, and you and I have had an offline conversation about this, but when we talked about, you know, the 10th district and Barbara Comstock and all this, when we lose seats in Virginia, it doesn't just affect Virginia. It affects our ability to have control of Congress. It affects the committee chairman. It affects who's the speaker. It affects this. Part of the reason that we have Nancy Pelosi is because we lost all these seats, including Virginia. And the next time that we go out there and vote in Virginia, we need to understand that these policies and this agenda is on the ballot, and that as much as sometimes some Republican may not be the purist or vote 100% of the time, that we can't continue to let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
You're exactly right, and I have bought into that 100%. It's like Dave Bossie said about Barbara a long time ago. He's like, you might not like every vote she takes, but he said, I can guarantee you this. If she loses, the Democrats are going to take over the House, and they're going to impeach Trump in 90 days. And I think Bossie's going to be pretty prophetic. Sean, you were there during the campaign.
Yeah, look, here's what I'll say to that end. Let's just say, and again, let's say that hypothetically you don't like 60 or 20% or 30% of whoever's votes. When a Democrat takes over, you will be in opposition to 100% of their votes. And that's not to say that we shouldn't fight it out in primaries and try to get the best conservatives that we can. Mm-hmm. But we had a fighter and somebody in the 10th district who was speaking for the voice of the people that they represented, and that I heard a lot of this question about whether it was pure enough or not. That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. The bottom line is that Jennifer Wexton, who now represents the 10th district of Virginia, will vote 0% with anything that conservatives want.
Mm-hmm. No question about it. So, look, Sean, you were there during the campaign, and during the campaign, the president said emphatically a number of times that he said, elect me president, I'm going to get us out of Syria and out of these wars. Oh, now he's doing it, and now everybody's up in arms as if he, made this up. A disconnect between now a campaign promise and a pledge and actually trying to implement that?
Well, look, I think on countless things, on the Iran deal, on the Paris Climate Agreement, he is. I mean, look, here's the irony of all this. I've been around this game a long time. You've been around the game a long time. Most politicians say whatever the heck they want on the campaign trail, and then make up a series of excuses as to why they can't fulfill them. The rap on this president is that he's done too much of what he promised to do. Every single thing that he says he's going to do, whether it's appointing Supreme Court justices, pulling out of Iran, the Iran agreement, pulling out of Paris Climate, moving the capital of or the embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, all of the things that he said he was going to do, he actually did. And the funny thing is that the rap is, to your point, oh, my God, I can't believe he's doing more of this stuff. People just need to go back and say, okay, here's what he said he was going to do. I better be prepared because this is the commitment that he made to the American people and what he's going to do to follow up on it.
Sean Spicer, thanks for being with us today. I love to get your perspective. Thanks for being with us. Hey, buy Sean's book, man, The Briefing. I just read it over Christmas. It is so cool. It'll really change your perspective on these press conferences. Check it out. The Briefing, Sean Spicer. Sean Spicer, Senior Policy Advisor, America First Policies.